I suspected my wife was planning a divorce, so I transferred my assets 2 weeks after she filed, and then she backed off. Hey everyone, before we dive into today's story, I need a quick favor. Lately, we've noticed a drop in engagement on the channel, and one of the easiest ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's free, takes just a second, and helps us keep delivering awesome content. Your support truly means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks a ton. Now let's get into it. Hey folks, I've been browsing through posts here for quite some time, always thinking I'd never have a reason to share my own. But life has a funny way of throwing surprises at you, and I've been carrying this around for months. I need to get it off my chest. Let me make one thing clear. I've never been the kind of person to jump to conclusions or expect the worst. My wife, let's call her Emily, and I have been together for 6 years, married for 4. I believed we had a strong foundation. Sure, we had our share of ups and downs like any couple, but nothing that ever set off alarm bells. If anything, I thought we had it figured out. For most of our time together, we were inseparable, partners in every sense of the word. We had inside jokes that made no sense to anyone else, playfully argued over what movie to watch, and naturally fell into a rhythm that just worked. She'd go all out planning elaborate date nights, and I'd surprise her with her favorite takeout after a long day. It felt easy, effortless, like we had cracked the code on love. That's why what happened next hit me like a freight train. The shift. Around 6 months ago, something started to change. At first, it was little things, subtle enough that I might have overlooked them if I hadn't been paying attention. Emily suddenly became glued to her phone. She took it with her everywhere, even if she was just stepping into the kitchen or folding laundry. Before, her phone would sit on the coffee table for hours, untouched. She never cared if I picked it up. But one evening I joked, "What? Are you running some secret spy operation now?" She laughed and said, "No, work's just been emailing me a lot." All right, fair enough. But then, a few days later, she added a password. That caught me completely off guard because she'd never bothered with one before. When I casually asked why, she mumbled something about security and hackers. I let it slide. I didn't want to seem paranoid, but something about it felt off. And it didn't stop there. She started taking phone calls in private, something she had never done before. It wasn't subtle, either. Her phone would ring, and she'd quickly say, "Oh, let me take this real quick," before heading into the bedroom or stepping onto the porch. If I asked who it was, her answer was always vague. Just a friend from work. Then I picked up on another habit. She began placing her phone face down on every surface. I had never even noticed that was a thing until I reached over to hand her something, and she instinctively slid her phone out of my reach. It happened so fast, I almost missed it, but the moment stuck with me. The growing distance. It wasn't just the phone, though. She started pulling away in other ways, too. Conversations that used to flow effortlessly now felt like I was prying information out of her. If I mentioned future plans, like where should we go for our anniversary, or think we should start saving for a new car, she'd just nod absent-mindedly and say, "Yeah, we'll see," before steering the conversation elsewhere. And then everything became clear on a random Wednesday. That afternoon, she casually mentioned she'd be grabbing coffee with a friend after work. Nothing unusual. She did that from time to time. By coincidence, I happened to be running errands in the same area, and I thought, hey, why not surprise her? It'd be a sweet gesture. But when I got there, she wasn't sitting with a friend. She was outside the cafe, pacing back and forth, phone pressed her ear. I stayed in my car because something about the way she... Careful. I mean, think about it. Why would she suddenly be so focused on finances now, after years of things being fine? People don't just wake up one day and decide to restructure everything without a reason. His words sent a shiver down my spine. That's what had been bothering me, the timing, the secrecy, the subtle but undeniable shift in her behavior. It wasn't just paranoia. Something was happening. I took his advice and started keeping track. I checked our statements every day, watching for more unexplained transactions. Sure enough, every few days, small amounts disappeared, always under the radar, always just enough that a person who wasn't looking wouldn't notice. It wasn't much, but it was methodical, and that was what scared me the most. Then, a week later, she made her next move. I got home earlier than usual and found her sitting at the kitchen table, a cup of tea in her hands, her expression unreadable. As soon as she saw me, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Hey, babe," she said. "I was thinking maybe we should start consolidating some of our accounts. Make things easier, you know?" There it was. Again, I forced a smile. "What do you mean?" She shrugged, swirling her tea absently. "Just combining a few things. Maybe even closing some of the smaller accounts, putting everything into one place. It'd make things simpler if we ever need quick access." Quick access. The word sent a bolt of unease through me. I leaned against the counter, crossing my arms. "You never cared about this stuff before. Why now?" She laughed lightly, but I caught the flicker of something behind her eyes. "Come on, it's just smart. We're married. We should be on the same page with this stuff." I studied her for a long moment. If I hadn't been paying attention, I might have thought she was just being practical. But now I saw the cracks. The forced nonchalance. The way she avoided looking directly at me. Something was happening, and I needed to find out what. The sense of unease never left me, though. If anything, it deepened. Every time she smiled at me, every time she laughed at something on TV, every time she curled up next to me in bed, it all felt staged. Like she was playing a role, waiting for the perfect moment to drop the act. I tried to act normal, but I knew she could sense the shift. Maybe it was my hesitation when she touched me. Maybe it was the way my responses were just a little too measured, too careful. But if she suspected anything, she didn't let it show. Then, one evening it happened. She came home later than usual, her face unreadable. I was in the kitchen, pretending to scroll through my phone, but my mind was racing. She set her purse down, took off her coat, and stood there for a second, as if gathering her thoughts. "We need to talk," she finally said. My stomach clenched. I put my phone down slowly and met her gaze. "All right. What's up?" She hesitated just for a split second, but I caught it. "I've been thinking," she started, stepping closer. "About us. About our future." I didn't respond, just let her talk. I think we should take a break." It was like the ground beneath me had just been ripped away. A break? She had never once mentioned anything like this before. "A break," I echoed, keeping my voice steady. "What does that mean exactly?" She shifted her weight, folding her arms. "I don't know. Just some time apart to figure things out. I feel like we've been off lately. I need some space to think." I studied her face, searching for any hint of real emotion. But all I saw was calculation. "Is this about someone else?" I asked, watching closely. Her eyes widened, just for a moment, before she forced a laugh. "What? No, of course not. This is just about me. I need to figure out what I want." She was lying. I knew it, but I played along. "All right," I said slowly. "You need space." "Fine. Where are you planning on staying?" Another hesitation. Another flicker of something she tried to hide. I was thinking I'd stay with a friend for a little while. "A friend, right?" I leaned back, nodding as if I was actually considering it. "All right," I said again, "if that's what you want." She looked relieved, and that just confirmed everything. She had expected a fight, expected me to panic, to beg her to stay, to hand her everything on a silver platter. But I wasn't playing that game. "Yeah," she said softly. "I think it's for the best." I forced a small smile. "I get it. Do what you need to do." That seemed to throw her off. She blinked, as if waiting for me to say more, to react in some way. But I didn't. I just stood up, grabbed my glass of water, and took a sip like this was any other night. And that was when I saw it. The way her fingers curled slightly, like she was gripping an invisible rope. The way her jaw tensed, just barely. She wasn't expecting this response. She had a plan, and I had just derailed it. Whatever she thought was going to happen tonight, she wasn't getting it. And now, I had to be ready for whatever came next on posts. It wasn't just casual likes, either. He was always there, hyping her up with heart emojis, compliments, and inside jokes I didn't understand. His name was everywhere, going back months. Jake. I didn't recognize him. He wasn't a coworker I had heard of, nor a longtime friend she had ever mentioned. But he was involved. Too involved. Curious, I clicked on his profile. It was private. Of course it was. But his profile picture told me enough. He wasn't just some random acquaintance. The way he smiled at the camera, The way he held himself with that arrogant, self-assured smirk. I had seen that look before. The look of someone who thought they had one. It didn't take much effort to start piecing things together. A quick search of his name brought up a LinkedIn profile. Finance industry. Same city. His most recent job? A company that just so happened to be one of her firm's biggest clients. She hadn't met him by chance. As I kept digging, I found more breadcrumbs. A mutual friend's post showed her at a dinner I hadn't known about, and there he was, sitting beside her, leaning in just a little too close. Then a blurry picture from an office party. Him again, laughing with her in the background. She had been planning this. Or at the very least, someone had been whispering in her ear, convincing her that leaving me wasn't just about finding herself. It was about trading up. And now, she wanted to gut me financially on the way out. I sat back, my hands clenched into fists. This wasn't just a woman realizing she wanted out of marriage. This was manipulation, strategy, a setup from the beginning. Fine. She wanted a war. She was going to get one. The air in that mediation room was thick with tension. My ex-wife, well, not legally ex yet, kept shifting in her chair, her hands gripping the edge of the table so tightly that her knuckles turned white. I could tell she was struggling to keep her composure, but I was in the mood to make things easier for her. Her lawyer leaned forward, pushing the stack of documents aside as if he could will them out of existence. There's still the matter of spousal support, he said, his voice trying to regain its authority. Your client was the primary breadwinner in the marriage. My client made sacrifices. I cut in before he could finish. Sacrifices? I repeated, raising an eyebrow. That's funny because last I checked, I was the one who sacrificed. Her jaw tensed, but she remained silent. I turned to face her directly. I supported every decision you made. Your career changes, your retreats, your whims. I agreed to move, budget, and change my life to accommodate you. And now, after all of that, you think I owe you? Her lips parted slightly as if she wanted to respond, but she hesitated. Maybe she finally realized that her narrative was crumbling. Her lawyer cleared his throat, trying to regain control of the situation. Regardless, the law is clear. Your client earns significantly more. A judge would. My client no longer has those assets. My lawyer interrupted smoothly, tapping the papers with his finger. As these documents show, my client does not own the house, the savings, or the investments anymore. His liquid income is minimal. The only thing left in his name is a single personal checking account, which, as we've outlined, does not meet the threshold for any substantial spousal support claim. Her lawyer's confidence wavered again. He knew he had lost. I watched my wife's, or rather, soon-to-be ex-wife's, expression darken. The plan she had spent months crafting, the manipulation, the deceit, the little pep talks from Jake, all of it had led to this moment. And she was realizing that she wasn't the one walking away victorious. For the first time since this process started, I saw something new in her eyes. Fear. She had counted on taking half of everything, on leaving me drained and broken. But now, she was realizing that she might be the one walking away with nothing. You played this well, she finally said, her voice colder than ever. I leaned back in my chair, studying her for a moment before I responded. No, I said, shaking my head. I just played smarter. Silence stretched between us. She was seething, but she couldn't do anything about it. Not now. Her lawyer sighed and pinched the bridge of his nose. I suggest we take a break and reconvene later. I stood up without hesitation. Take all the time you need, I said smoothly. Just know that my terms aren't changing. I turned and walked out of the room, leaving her to sit in the ruins of the plan she thought was airtight. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief that eventually came out. People can only lie for so long before the contradictions start piling up. And that's exactly what happened. The more she talked, the more tangled her stories became. Some people caught on quickly, especially the ones who had known us for years. Others took a little longer, but eventually they started seeing the cracks in her narrative. Then came the social media meltdown. One night, out of pure curiosity, I checked her Facebook and Instagram. What I saw was a disaster in real time. She had started posting vague, dramatic quotes about betrayal and heartbreak. Stuff like some people only pretend to love you until they get what they want, and trust is fragile, and once broken, it can never be the same. At first, I rolled my eyes, but then I noticed the pattern. Every few posts, she'd throw in something about me. Never by name, but clearly directed at me. You think you know someone, but then they turn into a stranger overnight. Some people are willing to destroy everything just to feel like they won. She was clearly spiraling, but I wasn't about to engage. I knew better than to get dragged into a public spectacle. I just let her unravel on her own. But that wasn't enough for her. When she realized her vague posts weren't getting the reaction she wanted, she took it up a notch. She started hinting that I had cheated on her, that I had been the one planning to leave all along, that I had emotionally manipulated her for years. It was absurd. Friends started messaging me, asking if I had seen what she was posting. I told them I had, but I wasn't going to respond. I had nothing to prove. The truth was already out there for anyone willing to see it. But she wasn't done. One morning, I woke up to find out she had gone on a full-blown rant in a live stream. Apparently, she had spent nearly an hour venting to her followers about how I had trapped her in a marriage where she had no financial freedom, which was ironic considering she had been trying to take half of my assets just a week earlier. She cried on camera, called me a monster, and claimed that she had been forced into making tough decisions because I had emotionally abandoned her. And then, because of course she did, she dragged Jake into it. He was the only one there for me, she sobbed. He helped me see the truth about my marriage. He showed me what real love and support look like. It was honestly laughable. She had been trying so hard to pretend that Jake was just a friend, but now that things had fallen apart, she was shifting her story to make him sound like her savior. It didn't take long before people started calling her out in the comments. Wait, I thought you said this divorce was a prank. Didn't you also say it was a test of your marriage? So which is it? If your marriage was so bad, why were you trying to take half of everything? LMAO girl, you got caught, and now you're scrambling. The backlash was brutal. The next day, her social media accounts were either wiped clean or made private. I figured she had finally realized that her little smear campaign wasn't working. But if I thought that was the end of it, I was wrong. Because after her public meltdown failed, she decided to take things a lot further. The IT was over. Completely, undeniably over. In the end, she lost everything. Not just the financial battle, but the war she had waged against the truth. She had gambled everything on manipulation, deceit, and the false belief that she could control the narrative. But the moment people saw the real story, she became nothing more than a cautionary tale. I wish I could say I felt triumphant, but honestly, I mostly felt relief. There was no satisfaction in watching someone self-destruct. No victory in seeing someone unravel after they had spent so much time plotting against me. I just wanted to be done with it. Jake disappeared like smoke in the wind. Not a single message, not a single attempt to defend himself. He had built her up, convinced her she was untouchable, then walked away the moment she became a liability. He was never planning to start fresh with her. He had been feeding her a fantasy, and she was too blinded by greed and arrogance to see it. Her calls and messages grew less frequent until they stopped altogether. She had gone from trying to ruin me to begging for any form of acknowledgement. When she realized none was coming, she vanished from my life entirely. And with her absence came something I hadn't felt in years: peace. No more looking over my shoulder. No more second-guessing every conversation. No more wondering when the next betrayal would come. Just peace. My mother helped me reclaim my home, repainting the walls, rearranging furniture, making it feel like mine again. It was incredible how something as simple as changing a space could feel like reclaiming control over my life. Mutual friends reached out, some apologizing for believing her, others just checking in to see how I was doing. The ones who mattered stuck around. The ones who had sided with her quietly faded away. And honestly, I was fine with that. I didn't need people in my life who couldn't recognize the truth when it was staring them in the face. Her brother's apology was unexpected, but I accepted it. He had been fooled, just like so many others. And unlike her, he at least had the decency to own up to it. As for her, she became nothing more than a closed chapter in my life. A lesson learned. A mistake I would never make again. And now, for the first time in a long time, my future belongs to me. The rest of my story is mine to write.